welcome back to Cruising as Crew. My name is Lucy and I am here with the fabulous Mark, and we are going to be talking today about what working on cruise ships was like a long time ago, because you've been working on ships for how many years?
Since 1999, so we're talking 22 years.
22 years, and obviously on and off. But things have obviously changed drastically in 22 years. And Mark has some really cool information, some really cool stories about what it was like all those years ago. And yeah, I've convinced him to share those stories with us. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing them all. So, 22 years ago, what made you start working on cruise ships?
It was the opportunity to travel. I have been a backpacker prior to that, doing my OE in my early 20s. Opportunity had come up to work on a cruise ship, so I grabbed it with both hands and moved forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and what cruise line did you work for first?
Okay, P&O Australia. Worked on a ship called the Fair Princess.
Ooh.
In those days, the ships were much older and less glamorous than what they are now. She was built in 1958, so she's still cruising up until 2005. So
oh wow, she did it. Yeah, she did well then. Yeah. And then, so you went from P&O Australia to
Princess Cruises.
Princess Cruises,
which is where I spent most of my working life on ships.
And then Virgin.
And Virgin the last 2 years.
Okay. What made you come to Virgin from Princess?
For me, Virgin, it was a different mentality, probably different mindset. A much more modern. The previous companies have always been very traditional, maybe slightly what I would call old school, whereas Virgin are much more contemporary, more modern, modern thinking, just their ways, their ethos on the environment and things like that. It's really impressive.
Yeah, and you wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, definitely.
During your time on cruise ships, have you always worked in the shops? So, sorry, Mark works with me in the shops. We both work in the retail world. So, have you always worked in retail on ships?
Yes, I've been in the retail game all my working life, so it's sort of a natural progression. For me, working on the shops, there's a few bonuses to working on the shops. You get a little bit more time off than a lot of other departments.
Yeah, for sure.
You get to travel and do things ashore more so. That's part of the reason I probably stayed with it. It's just because I can get out and about.
But then also, I think there was more money in it years ago than there is now.
The ratio financially was much better then. I was able to pay off a mortgage working on ships, whereas unfortunately, this day and age, I think not.
Yeah. So how did it work on ships then? Was it a very low salary but the commission was high?
No, more a proper wage.
A proper wage. So now I want to get into some of the really cool stories that you've got. Okay. So as you said, when you started working on ships 22 years ago, mobile phones weren't a thing. Well, I mean they existed, but not everyone had one. You only had one if you were like in the super wealthy. So you're on a cruise ship and you've got no mobile phone. So how do you contact people at home?
Basically pen and paper.
Pen and paper.
You know, those old-fashioned things that some people don't use anymore.
Yeah, write letters.
But so what you basically did, you would write letters and then you would post them in a post office, and then you would wait for turnaround day for your mail to come through.
And so how often would you send and receive letters?
Just like normal people, just how often you would communicate, maybe once a month.
Once a month, okay. And
you wouldn't have the communication like we have now. There was telephones on land. You could communicate if you needed to contact somebody.
Yeah.
But generally it was waiting until you went ashore.
But didn't you find that hard, like being at sea and not being able to contact your loved ones back home as regularly as maybe you would like? I think that's part of the sacrifice when going to sea. There are a lot of sacrifices you make, as you know, when you go to sea. You're cut off from what I call the real world. We're living in a bubble. So things happen back home that you miss out on. Birthdays, weddings, even deaths and stuff. You're not there being part of the real world. So they're the sacrifices you make when you're coming to work at sea. And everybody's in the same boat.
the intensity on board, as you know. I always feel like 6 months on a ship is like 2 years on land.
Yeah.
For the intensity of everything.
Yeah, for sure. Like you could know someone for 6 months and feel like you've known them
forever. Yeah, and you become very good friends. You meet people that I've got friends all around the world. Really, really close with them and that. Sad thing is you may not see them again for years to come, but that's again part of the deal.
Part of the deal, yeah. So you talked about, a lot of sacrifices to work at sea. What other sacrifices do you feel like you have to make?
In the early days, it was your privacy.
Tell us about that.
You had to share a cabin. You don't get to choose the person you're sharing with.
Right.
So part of the challenge to that is you've got to be really accommodating for them, but they've also got to be accommodating for you, as in personal space, sharing a room with someone who you don't know. That's a major challenge.
And you've had quite.
I've had a real mixture. Overall, everybody was good. We've had a few issues, but you work those out.
Can you tell us about one?
Yeah. I had one roommate who had a rooster alarm clock. And when I say a rooster alarm clock, it would cock-a-doodle-doo in the morning. He would tend to sleep right through it, but the unfortunate thing is it got louder and louder and louder. And then he would actually wake up, push the snooze button, and then it would start all over again. So that was a challenging one.
God. So you're lay on the top bunk having to listen to this thing cock-a-doodle doing every day, and he's not
getting really loud.
And he's not acknowledging it at all.
No. Some people can sleep through anything.
I would have killed him.
Oh, the clock was gone within
2 days. You killed the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. A cock-a-doodle-doo clock as well.
Yeah.
Not even
a rooster, not even a chicken. A rooster.
A rooster. Oh no, can't be dealing with that. And then one thing I found really interesting. Was the shower situation.
Yeah.
Talking about privacy. So now, I mean, we're very lucky on Virgin, we have our own cabin, but even if you share a cabin with one other person, you also share the bathroom with your roommate. So the maximum amount of people that will share a bathroom is 2 people, whether you're in a single cabin like I am or whether you're in a bunkmate cabin. But that wasn't the case, was it?
No. My very first ship, on the Fair Princess, you had a small hand basin in the corner of your room. That was for washing your hands and things like that. But to use the toilet or the shower, you would have to go down the corridor to a communal area, which had showers and toilets in them. So you'd be going down the hallway in a towel with your little toiletry bag, working your way down there, and coming back the same way. So. And
how many people would use that bathroom? And was that unisex, or was that there's a male and there was a female one?
I recall being separate sex.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they were all partitioned off and everything like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an open space where you had a shower in front of each other.
Yeah, like swimming pool showers almost.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So yeah, it was a challenge, a little bit different again. The luxuries of having your own bathroom and shower is pretty amazing. Yeah. Especially if you're ill.
Oh God! Yeah, having to use a communal.
You've had a big night out. And you have to zoom off to the bathroom.
To do your business in the communal. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
All those things we take for granted now.
Yeah.
Quite different.
Oh my God. And then also you told me about the deliveries, because now when we have stock deliveries, we obviously have forklifts and stuff, so they will lift the pallets of stock onto the ship and we just have to unpack them and take them to the stockroom or the shop floor. But I mean,
stock deliveries for us, again, P&O Australia.
Back in the day.
Most deliveries were put on the dock.
Yeah.
And you had to manually carry it up a gangway, which was 1 person wide.
Wow.
So that wasn't.
That must have taken ages.
Took ages. In those days, we had things like televisions. We used to sell in the shops, so up to a 29-inch television, which is reasonably big.
Can you imagine going on a cruise ship and buying a television?
TVs, VCRs.
How would people take it home?
Same way.
What?
Carry it off.
And they carry. Wow.
I know people think they've got problems with their luggage now.
I know. You imagine carrying a TV home from your cruise. My God.
And a big one, yeah. So yeah, it was quite different. The things have got a lot smaller, of course. What we're selling now, it's all electronics and stuff like that. So
yeah. So I want to ask about parties. So people always ask, you know, what are the crew parties like on cruise ships? And I mean, they're great. They're really great. But I can imagine, you know, 22 years ago or 20 years ago when you were first starting out, the parties were...
They were good.
Crazier, maybe because you had less rules in place?
Basically, you had less rules. The different mindset as well. I mean, a lot of people, our working day was a lot shorter. In those days, for the retail side of it, we would close at 9 o'clock in the evening no matter what. So even if we set sail at 8 in the evening, we'd only open for 1 hour. And then that was it. Yeah. So 9 o'clock was when the shops closed. So for the retail crew, it was basically free time to enjoy. We have our own crew bar, of course, but we were allowed access to passenger area more so. That's something that's sort of tightened up these days. Oh,
so you could just go in the passenger areas and have a drink, have dinner,
things that haven't changed. You know, you've got to be respectful, and you can't be drunk, or to be seen drunk anyway.
Yeah, you've got to keep that under wraps when you go to the communal toilets. So, can you tell me any crazy stories from a crew party that you had?
One of them, we had a place on a princess ship called the Wardroom, which was for officers, and being retail staff, we were half an officer.
Half
a stripe.
So were you allowed in the wards room?
Yes.
Okay.
And they had a pole, dancing pole.
Oh.
So you can imagine everybody would have a try. And it was a permanent fixture as well.
Really? So a few drinks and everyone would be pole dancing in the office room.
Give it a try anyway. Give it a try. So yeah, that would probably be
the craziest thing.
But they used to do all sorts of different themed parties as well.
Yeah.
Quite often, notice on Virgin we don't do so much, but a lot of people's Independence Days.
Yeah.
By the time you have their national holidays and independent days and things like that, there's usually about 2 or 3 actual proper parties.
Yeah. So, I must say, even on the ships that I've been on, we would do things, like especially Royal Caribbean, we would always have Independence Day parties.
Always.
And there was like...
Christmas, New Year.
Yeah, but there was even like...
Day.
We would have like Grecian parties, so everyone would wear a bed sheet and make it a toga. We would have animal parties, or what was the one that you told me about, the gender swap party?
Oh right, so that was actually for passengers on P&O Australia.
Yeah,
it was called Gender Bender Night.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, even the rugby teams that came on board all had high heels.
Wow.
And so basically men dressed as women and women dressed as men, and it was just a swap of gender for one night.
So you've got all these butch rugby players walking around in their dresses and their shoes. Heels.
And the girls.
I'd love that.
It was tough.
I mean, I guess in this day and age it's
probably more acceptable now, but in those, we're talking 20 years ago, in Australia, maybe not so. It was a bit pushing the boundaries.
Wow. Okay.
For them.
Yeah.
But to be an actual event on board a cruise ship. But cool. But it was, again, all in good fun.
Yeah, no.
And then they'd have like a catwalk show for the best ones and stuff like that. Everybody at the end of the night. So, and people voted who was the best dressed and stuff.
That's good fun.
Australians are they're very vibrant people.
Vibrant, that is a wonderful way.
Yeah, they're not shy in coming forward.
Definitely. All right. All right. Can you tell us about the worst roommate you've had and why they were the worst roommate?
Overall, I've been pretty lucky.
Spill the beans.
No. Seriously, most people, you have to get on. Otherwise, you're living 6 months with somebody. You've really got to get on. So even if it's not fantastic, you have to make it work.
Right.
Otherwise, your personal life is just going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Like I said, the rooster alarm clock, people having sex in the room. That's pushing boundaries.
Was it, while you're there as well?
Yeah, always. You wake up
and your roommate's shagging on the top bunk.
Yeah, or the bottom.
Get off!
So yeah, those are the things that are probably the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But again, you make it work.
Yeah.
You just have to, because you don't get to change cabins.
No,
if you don't get on, there has to be another vacancy somewhere else. I did have one incident with people who were snoring and also body smells.
Body odours.
Body odours.
Yeah.
One particular person would drink a lot and they would perspire, but also an odour came up, and behind the beds, the bunks, there was a gap between the wall and the top bunk, and the smell would come up over and wake me up. It was like smelling salts. Disgusting. I did actually leave that cabin.
Because of the smell?
Well, you couldn't sleep.
Oh, no.
Rancid would be a good word.
Rancid? God.
Well, like I say, it was like a smelling salts.
Yeah.
So it would actually wake you. And also they're snoring.
Jeez. I mean, speaking of that, I made a video going through 10 things I wish I knew before sharing a cabin, which I'll link down below. And in that one, I actually said personal hygiene is... make sure you're showering twice a day.
Twice a day. And also cultural. Different cultures do things differently than what, say, we do in the Western world. And it's not that they're dirty or anything like that. It's just the way we do things.
Yeah, we all have different
I've had
ones.
roommates that would bring a mini suitcase of soap to last them the entire contract, 52 bars.
52 bars of soap.
Because in their country, it's much cheaper to buy soap than it is, say, in the US and things like that. Even though we take it for granted, we just think, oh yeah,
soap.
It's cheap. It's not expensive. But yeah, they're very...
watch every penny.
Every penny, and also maybe, we just like maybe more luxury products.
Yeah.
Whereas it's very basics.
Wow.
And that was a change coming through as well. Different cultures have coming into the retail world. In the past, as I said, it was mainly Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and the UK. Now we have many different cultures, Eastern European, a lot more Asian countries working in the retail game. That's just the industry moving forward and progressing.
For sure.
But again, cultural differences can be challenging at times.
Okay. So where is your favourite place that you have been on cruise ships? Or
For me,
one of them?
One of the most memorable times was sailing into Venice.
Venice?
Yeah.
In Italy?
In Italy. We were sailing right into where St. Mark's Square is, which is now off limits to big ships.
Mm-hmm.
But that was probably one of the most magical times.
Yeah.
You're actually above the city of Venice, so you're actually looking down on it as you're sailing in. And you're going very slowly. And it's just a magical place.
Beautiful.
Because you see pictures of it all the time, painted 200, 300, 400 years ago, and it's exactly the same.
Amazing. And then what is your favourite and least favourite thing about working on cruise ships?
One of the things that stood out for me is just generally working with different people.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like people to be working on a ship, because you're involved in people's lives so much.
Yeah.
But that would probably be one of the highlights, is just all the different nationalities. I've had people come to stay with me in New Zealand, vice versa. I've stayed with people around the world, because you do build up those bonds. So that's one of the cool things that I think you get out of this job.
Okay.
And the travel.
And the travel, of course, yeah. And then what's your least favourite thing? Least
favourite would have been probably the sharing of a cabin. Yeah, those were the big challenges. Also, the time away from home.
Yeah.
It is something that does take time to get used to. And like I say, for me, I've done a total probably in those 23 years of around about 14, 15 years actually working on ships. I've had gaps in between. So
of course, yeah.
You have to come back to reality and get back into it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've been on ships since I was, when did I start? 18 years old. And I'm 27 now. And I've had about, including COVID and everything, I think I've had a total of about almost 4 years at home out of those 9 years.
Yeah.
So, and I think if you don't, it messes with you a bit.
It does.
Because as you said, living on a ship is like living in a bubble. So
I've known people who have been at sea for a long, long time, continuously, and emotionally and mentally, I'm sure it does affect them.
Absolutely, it does have an effect. So it's a fantastic thing to do, but it's also important to realise that it is a
reality.
Yeah, and you do need to spend time at home, because as well, if you're at sea continuously, of course you are going to lose contact eventually with people from home. And the thing is, I actually noticed that when I went home for COVID.
Yeah.
And I personally, for me, that year and a half at home during the pandemic was exactly what I needed, because I've been at sea for so long that
you disconnect with people.
And I went home and I would see my friends, and I'm like, I don't know anything about you anymore.
Yeah.
So that year and a half was spent reconnecting with family and friends, which is really important, because if you do let's say do an 8-year stint at sea, and then finally decide to go home, you are going to go home and realise that that's not home anymore. Like you don't know anyone, and
that's why it's probably, like, for me, it's been important to reconnect.
Yeah.
And go and get a real job in the real world.
Yeah.
Every now and then. But sea has this strange thing that draws you back, brings you back every time. For me, it's nearly a lifetime. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I would have no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
Have loved every minute. So you have to change your mindset. Different generations bring different things to your life. So you may not necessarily agree with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's about accepting other people for who they are, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I've not come across any ageism.
Okay.
Which has been really good. Everybody's accepting.
Yeah.
Because, again, the way I do things may not be the way they do things.
Yeah.
Technology is something that's gone through leaps and bounds in the last 20 years. And that's, for me, has been challenging. And the fact that when I worked on ships and everything was happening on land, and the development of technology, and that because you're in a bubble, you're not exposed to those things.
Yeah.
So you're actually left out of the loop. And so when you go back for your 2 months holiday, you don't necessarily grasp all the technology at once. So that can be a challenge, but it also keeps you younger in the mind as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, what is it? Age is just a number. It's all about how you feel inside. Mm-hmm. So if you want to do cruise ships, but you're worried that you're not young enough, or
there's a few of us older ones on board. It's not there are a lot of other people around there in their 40s and 50s. It's not unusual.
Yeah, no, there's a wide age range on board, and
Virgin's more open to that as well, because everybody is bringing new things to the business of running a cruise ship.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has their own experiences that they can bring.
Definitely.
But I think you have answered everything I wanted to ask.
Cool.
Unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, that sounds all good.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we really appreciate you sharing your stories with us. But if you have any questions for Mark, please leave them in the comments down below, and I will ask Mark, and I will get back to you. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for answering my questions.
Pleasure.
And as always, I will see you in the next video.
Cheers.
Bye.